Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast today. With me, Sarah. Hi, I'm from BEC. I am one of the tutor at Make Do and Air course. And today we have a new guest from America. And can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Leah. I am from America, from the state of Ohio, and I live here in Kerinci with my family. Do you want me to say more about when we came to Kerinci?
Yeah, if you.
Sure. Yes, we came to Kerinci in 2010. So it has been 13 years in Kerinci. My husband and I moved here with a little baby named Jack. And after we moved to Kerinci, we had 2 more babies in Indonesia. So now I have 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl, and they are now 10, 11, and 13.
Wow, 3.
Yes.
How's your feeling for the podcast today?
Good, yes. Excited to share and easy for me to speak English. Happy to share English with you all.
I have some question for the podcast today.
Sure.
But before we move to the question, I would like to ask you about the weather today. Yeah, because the weather almost 3 or 4 months, the weather like smoke.
Yes, which is unusual for Kerinci. Usually it's very pleasant here, and we always tell people, even though we live on the equator in a tropical climate, you would think it's very hot here, but it is very comfortable because we live in the mountains and the weather is perfect here. But sometimes there's a hot season where it doesn't rain for a while, and the burning causes the air to be not so good. So yeah, it's been not very good lately, but just now before we started recording, there was a big rain that came. Yeah. So I'm very thankful for that.
Hopefully, I'm so happy with that also. Yes. Yeah, among the winter before, we have been stayed here before, and the water is so hard. Like sometimes we have to get to the river and to diver to take the water. And how about now?
Yeah, well, same at my house. Fortunately, we have not had to go to the river, but the water has been turned off for a few days last week. And so we had to fill buckets, or what they have here, bak mandi. We have to fill that with water and just use that water for washing dishes or shower, things like that. So it's a little inconvenient, but thankfully we have always had enough. And this week has been better than last week.
Yeah. But today we are so grateful for the rain.
Yes, so grateful for the rain. It's like music to my ears.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I really miss the voice of the raining, the sound of raining. But today I can hear that.
Yes, yeah, and it was loud too.
Yeah, loud. So.
Beautiful.
But now back to the signing. Okay, let's be back. Sure. Before that, how long have you been staying here?
Yeah, so we have been here 13 years.
13, wow, that's a long time. Okay. Among you stay here, what challenge have you faced in learning bahasa, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah. Well, it is always challenging to learn a new language. My husband and I wanted to come to Kerinci because of the national park around here. My husband works in tourism, and so we did not want to spend time at a language school that wasn't here in Kerinci. We wanted to learn how to speak the way they speak here in Kerinci. Yeah. And so we came straight from America to Kerinci, and people always think that we lived in Jakarta or somewhere else, but no, we've always stayed in Kerinci. And it was challenging to move here where there is not a language school for learning Indonesian. And so one challenge was to find a teacher that had enough time to teach us every day, because we wanted maybe 3 or 4 hours 5 days a week to study
Wow.
language. And it's hard to find someone who has that much time and patience and skill to be a teacher. But we did. We had a few different teachers to teach us, and I'm very grateful for them. But it was also challenging to learn Kerinci language
different.
here because
Yeah.
we did not realize that Kerinci has so many languages.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we thought we would learn to speak how people speak in daily interactions, but we would study Indonesian with our teacher, and then we would go, to the market or to the neighbor or to arisan or to different things, and people were speaking in different languages. And so sometimes we can understand what they're saying, and sometimes we cannot. So that is a challenge of learning language here.
Wow. Yeah. We are different.
Yes.
What do you think about your bahasa right now?
Lumayan. I would say I can understand most of what people say, but there's still, in every conversation, there's still something that I don't know. And so that is very humbling that even though I have lived here a long time, I've had babies in Indonesia, that it still is a process to practice every day, requires practice. It requires me to make a lot of mistakes and be okay with that and not feel too embarrassed or shy, but just to keep listening and to keep practicing. And so I think I'm comfortable enough with my Indonesian now that I know that I will never be like a native speaker, and I'm okay with that. And I know that it will require work all the time.
Or do you have maybe one word that, according to you cannot go out from your brain? Like you always remember, this word is so funny for me. In Kerinci, do you have it?
So many. I think maybe I can't think of a specific word, but there are sounds in Indonesian that are difficult for my tongue to say, like words that start with an ng. or NY, sometimes those, and for some English speakers, doing a rolled R is very difficult. Fortunately, I don't have that problem, but for those can be very difficult sounds for English speakers to produce with their mouths.
Can you share a funny or a memorable language-related experience you have while living in Indonesia or Kerinci?
Sure. I was thinking about this, and probably I have this experience all the time, except I don't realize how funny it is because I think I'm doing it right, but probably every day, some neighbors or people that I talk to are laughing inside because they know that I speak incorrectly, something I missed. So I know it's happening all the time, but maybe I don't realize it. But I was trying to think, I don't know if there's a specific example, but early on when we first moved here, I had a very difficult time with numbers and money because for one, the rupiah here has very many zeros. Zeros.
Zero.
So like 1 million is like in America, 1 million is a lot of money. Like you could spend your life working for $1 million.
Yeah.
But here, 1 million rupiah, it's a lot, but it's not very much.
Yeah.
So yes, I had trouble with zeros, and also the words with money sounded very similar to my brain then, like ratus, rupiah, ribu, lots of So I would get very confused, and then I'd see the money with so many zeros, and so I know that when I was shopping in the pasar in the early years of living here, I would hear them say something, and I would maybe pay for some, like maybe a kilo of apples for, I don't know, like 1 million instead of like 100 or something, because it's so hard for me to hear the distinction. So sometimes I would try to pay for something with a lot of money, sometimes with way too small money. Like I wanted to buy something big and expensive, but I would just give like 5,000 because it was so hard for me to hear the difference between ratus rupiah,
5,000,
yeah,
100,000.
all of those things. And then just because I wasn't used to how many zeros on the cash.
So you will look the zero first.
Yes, I was very embarrassed.
Yeah, 100,000 and 100 rupiah is
yeah, it's very different.
Wow. So it was so hard for you.
Yeah.
Okay, next. While you stay in Indonesia or Kerinci, what is the common or big mistake the Indonesian do in speaking English? And the native not do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that probably gets called to me the most often, really every day, anytime I leave my house, people say, Mister. So for one, I am not a man, and so you cannot say Mister for a woman. It would be Miss or Mrs. But also, native English speakers don't address people with that title anyway. And if you did use it, you would have to say Mr. and then use the name, the family name. So, for example, my husband is Mr. Mackin, not Mr. Luke.
Yeah, but
and not just Mr. You never just say Mr. It's always Mr. Mackin. And we only do that like if you're a student to your teacher, or maybe your child to your friend's parents. But business, not usually. If you're just with friends or neighbors or in the market, you never say Mr. or Miss or Mrs. You just call their name or just say, excuse me. You don't have to say Mr. So that's one thing that everyone always says Mr. here. And I think it's because you use Pak and Bu. Bapak and Ibu. And we don't have an equivalent of that. It's not the same in English. So that's one thing. Some words like, this is a silly, it's not that big of a deal, but Perna is also a word that we don't use very much in English.
Perna?
Yeah, Perna. Or belum, like you would say not yet. You always say not yet. Or ever, have I ever? And we just don't say that as often. We have those words, but we don't use it the way that Indonesians use it. Some, just like Americans, English speakers have trouble with some sounds, like it's very difficult for us to say r, like a rolled R. It's different to pronounce R for here, for people here. Or TH, like my son's name is Ethan. He is always called Ethan. So TH is a very difficult one for Indonesians. The hard R is very difficult. But I would say that maybe the biggest mistake, if you can call it that Indonesians have when speaking English is that they don't speak it enough. So they don't practice enough. Maybe a lot of people are shy or embarrassed to try, and that is a big mistake if you're trying to learn another language. You just have to be willing to be brave and use language, and even if you don't know for sure if it's correct, you just have to practice. And don't worry so much about pronunciation. I think that's very important for people here. They really want to make sure they're pronouncing it correctly, but I think that holds people back from being willing to use it because they're nervous about getting pronunciation wrong. And I would suggest that pronunciation, maybe the teachers will disagree with me, but I don't think pronunciation is the most important thing in language, because the most important thing is practice. Because pronunciation, there are many, many different accents in the English-speaking world, and so people can understand you even if your pronunciation is a little different than theirs. So the most important thing is just to keep practicing.
But that's the most mistake. The big problem of the student here, they don't want to practice.
It's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there.
The key of speaking English is practice. Come on, guys, practice.
You have to do it.
Wow, maybe some of the Indonesians do not realize that they only study
Yeah.
without any practice
Mm.
or but sometimes they ignore. Yeah, I can do it without any practice. They
Mhm.
only think that they can do it,
Mhm.
but they left the most important thing.
Mhm. Yes.
Wow, good lesson. Okay, the last question. Can you share any? Yeah, I saw your Facebook, your husband's book. Like you went to Kenduri school.
Yeah.
I am something like that. And can you share any interesting culture nuances you've discovered through language interaction?
Sure. Yeah. Well, culturally, I could say a lot of
Mm.
differences between my culture and this culture.
Yeah.
But some of the things that have to do with language, specifically in the culture here, there are several words in Indonesian that we have more nuance for in English. Like before, when we were studying together, the word sakit.
Sakit.
In Indonesian, there's one word for sakit. In English, we have a lot of different words for sakit that can be confusing. Like your muscle can be sore. Sakit, you would say sore. Or you have a wound, or you're injured, or you're ill, or you have a disease. Like there are many words for that. Another funny one for me is mencium.
Mencium.
Yeah, that's a funny word for me because in English, it can mean smell or kiss.
Kiss.
But in my mind, smell and kiss are very different meanings.
Yeah.
But when we came to Indonesia with little babies, and they would always say cium, and people would rub their nose against the baby, which we don't do in my culture.
Yeah.
You use your lips, not your nose,
Yeah.
to kiss the baby. And so I understand that cium can be smell and kiss because you do like a kiss smell. but we don't have that concept in English, or in my culture. So that's a funny word. Another funny word that has maybe a lot of meanings in my understanding, but malu can mean so many different things. Like in English, we could say shy, embarrassed, ashamed, even humble. You can kind of use malu for that.
Malu.
So it has, for me, those are very different meanings. But here, malu.
Only one word. Malu.
So those are some examples. But I think the opposite can also be true. For example, another one, I have to throw this in there. Enak also is a funny word for me. Enak. Because you use it for food. Yeah. And we would always say this food is delicious. And so when I learned enak, I learned delicious. But you can use enak for comfortable, like your body, or if you're not feeling well, you're tidak enak. So I think, like, in my brain, I think you're not delicious. That's very funny. Or even the weather is tidak enak. So that one's a funny one for me. But the opposite can be true for English. Like, we only have one word for love. But here, I think there are so many different ways you can say that you love something or someone, like cinta kasih, sayang. So sometimes it's difficult for me to understand, how do you say you love this thing or this person? Am I using the right type of love? Because there's so many different words. Or like rice, you have so many different words for rice. Like beras, padi, sawah. Like we would just call that the rice field, but you have specific words, or nasi. So many words for that. And then another funny one is night. We were talking before because my family, we're traveling tonight. And so when we're telling the driver, I want to say Tuesday night, we want to travel. But Tuesday night is not on Tuesday, it's on Monday. If I say malam, malam Selasa is yesterday in my brain. So that's another confusing one with language. Culturally, I think in general, and I already kind of said this before with the ibu and bapak titles, that I think it's more formal here than in my culture. So here you always address someone by a title, ibu or bapak.
Yeah.
or clock, you can
Yeah.
say. So you always use that, and it's more casual in America. And also even like the social structure, like here you have a kepala desa, or politicians are very highly respected, even between teachers and students, or professors and students. There's definitely a hierarchy. So it's more formal here. Whereas in my culture, I think those relationships are more relaxed. Like politicians are often treated like normal people, or teachers are very casual with students. So that's a difference culturally here. But yeah, I've learned to appreciate that difference as well.
Like I saw your children call like Ethan, only that. But here you'll say abang, kakak, adik. But your culture may be different with here.
Yeah, same. And it's, I have to remind my children to things like salam. You know, yesterday we were at a wedding, and they forget sometimes, you know, to salam to the forehead if you are, because you want to respect your elders. And so we don't have anything like that in America. And so there's, even though they've lived in Indonesia their whole lives, they're very American culturally. So some of those things are confusing for them too. But yeah, I do appreciate that. I think it's good to show respect to your elders.
That's make we are unique.
Yeah.
To study each other. So many different culture and different words that between American and Indonesia, and especially in Kerinci, of course. But these differences make us like can talk and can share anything together, and we can have a relationship together with that different. But this today is so funny to listen what you say, like Mr. Most of here, sometimes I say, Mr., where are you going? But that's totally wrong in English.
But it's okay. We'll all forgive you. We'll appreciate the respect that we don't get in our home countries.
Like we were talking about baik, like sakit. No, baik sakit. Before here we only say sakit kepala, sakit perut, sakit kaki, sakit tangan. We only say sakit. But where we talk reading before, how can I use illness, sickness, how to make different with them? But it's hard for me to understand also, because so many ways to say sakit. So, but that's
and it's not always easy to explain either. Sometimes it just happens when you're a native speaker. But it's hard to get that. But again, lots of practice, lots of listening, watching movies, listening to songs. Then you can kind of tell, okay, this is where they usually use this word, or in this situation they would use that word. But yes, it takes a lot of practice.
The key is practice. The talking today is really fun, and thank you for your time, so of course, Kalia. And the first time I would not believe that you will want to have a podcast with me. And you said before you were so tired and you will go back to American and you want to go to Malaysia also. But thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Today.
Yes, it's very enjoyable to be able to share.
Okay, that's all for our talking today, guys. And I hope that you will listen and prove yourself. And the most important is practice. Don't forget to practice if you want to have a good English. Bye-bye. I'm Sarah.
Leah.
Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.